My name is Emily Carter. I'm 29 years old, and 2 months ago, I pressed criminal charges against my parents and my younger sister. Yeah, that sounds crazy. It still sounds crazy to me, but it happened. They drugged me, tried to steal from me, and I caught them in the act. So if you've ever felt like the responsible one in your family, always expected to give, never allowed to say no, keep listening, because one day you might find out the people you trust the most are the ones drawing the knife. Before we get into it, hit that like button if you've ever been guilt-tripped by family, and drop a comment. Would you report your parents to the police if they tried to rob you? All right, let me tell you exactly how it all started. It was a Tuesday. I remember that because my calendar was unusually empty for once. I'd wrapped up a major release at work, and for the first time in months, I didn't have emails screaming at me before sunrise. I was sitting on the couch in my tiny apartment in Seattle, halfway through reheating leftover pasta, when the notification came through. Family dinner, this Saturday. Just us. Hope you can come. It was from my mom. Simple, polite, but something about it made my stomach clench. There was no guilt, no nagging, no your sister's going through a hard time, just dinner. And that's how I knew they wanted something. See, the last time I heard from them was 3 weeks earlier, after I'd said no, for the first time in my life. It wasn't even a dramatic no. No yelling, no lecture, just a quiet refusal. Megan, my younger sister, had racked up $12,000 in gambling debt, and my parents wanted me to help her out. Their exact words: "She made a mistake. She's just scared. You're doing well. You can afford it." But this time, I didn't cave. I told them I've helped her for as long as I can remember, but not this. Not anymore. Silence followed. No calls, no texts, not even a passive-aggressive meme from my dad. So when the dinner invite came, I was suspicious, but I was also tired. Tired of being the estranged daughter. Tired of always feeling like I was the problem when I drew boundaries. And maybe, deep down, I hoped it really was just dinner, a peace offering, a soft reset. So I said yes. Saturday came faster than I expected. The weather in Oregon was unusually warm for October. Beaverton's trees were half bare, shedding yellow and copper leaves onto the sidewalks. As I pulled into my parents' driveway, I noticed the house looked exactly the same as it had for the last 10 years: white siding, 2 planters out front, the same cracked stepping stone that always tripped the Amazon guy. But something in me was different. As I stepped out of the car, I caught my reflection in the driver's side window, hair neatly tied back, no makeup, just a black sweater and jeans. Comfortable, forgettable, exactly how I used to dress when I came home for holidays. My heart thudded, not from fear, from preparation. Inside, the scent of roasted chicken and green beans drifted through the air. Familiar, comforting, but practiced, engineered. "Emily," my mom called out from the kitchen. "We're just about to eat. Come in, come in." Like I was late to some joyful gathering. My dad stood up when I walked into the dining room, just a beat too slowly, like he wasn't sure whether we were doing hugs now or not. We nodded. My sister was already seated, phone in hand, barely looking up. "Hey," she muttered. I nodded back, but my eyes went to the table. 3 plates, 1 extra chair mine already pulled out, and right in front of it, a glass filled with cranberry juice. Not sparkling, not mixed, just plain cranberry. Like they remembered that tiny detail. Like they wanted me to believe I was still known here. "You still like cranberry, right?" my mom asked as she brought out the mashed potatoes. I forced a smile. Sure. I hadn't touched cranberry juice in over a year. Not since I stopped drinking entirely after a health scare that left me passed out in a bathroom stall at a friend's wedding. 2 sips of wine and I was out cold. My body couldn't handle alcohol. My family knew that. but they never truly accepted it. We sat. The food was good. The conversation, light. "How's work still living in Seattle? Traffic's been awful lately." "Huh?" I nodded. I chuckled. I played my part. The quiet one. The stable one. The one who never stirred the pot. Megan, surprisingly, brought up one of her coworkers getting stuck in the revolving doors at her office building. I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because I knew the rules keep things breezy. Stay on script. About halfway through dinner, right as my dad launched into one of his rants about road construction, my phone buzzed in my lap. I ignored it at first, but it buzzed again. Same number. Unknown. I tilted the screen under the table. One message. "Get up and leave now. Don't say anything to your parents. Don't drink anything. Just go." No name. No emojis. Just plain text with stiff punctuation. Like someone trying really hard to sound calm while screaming on the inside. My throat went dry. I looked at the glass again. Still full. Untouched. Then I looked at my family. My mom was nodding along to my dad's story. Megan was chewing her food. All of it looked normal. Too normal. I ran through a dozen explanations in my head. Spam, prank, misdial, social experiment. But I knew. Deep down, I knew. I slid my chair back. "I'll be right back," I said. "Just need to use the bathroom." No one blinked. No one asked why. I took my phone and headed upstairs. The upstairs bathroom had a door that locked all the way without jamming. I closed it, locked it, sat on the edge of the bathtub, and stared at the message again. Then I hit call. One ring, then a voice. "Emily, you're still there." I froze. It was Megan's ex-boyfriend. Or maybe still current, I couldn't keep up. What the hell is going on? His voice was tight, urgent. "You need to get out of there. Now. Just get up. Walk out. Don't drink anything." "Why?" He hesitated. "They're planning something. I think they put something in the juice." I stood up too fast, the tiles cold under my socks. "What, like? Alcohol? Or something else? I don't know, but you cannot drink it. Don't even touch it. Just leave." But why, I asked. What are they trying to... Another pause. "They want to unlock your phone. They're trying to get access to your accounts. Your bank? Everything." My stomach turned. I looked in the mirror, and for the first time in my life, I didn't recognize my own face. Not because it was afraid, but because it was awake. I hadn't taken a sip. But this was just the beginning. I was still gripping the phone like it might explode. My knuckles had gone white, my body cold. Mark's voice was shaky, barely above a whisper. "They want your thumbprint. Emily. They're going to try to unlock your phone while you're out." I blinked, staring at my reflection in the bathroom mirror. "That's insane," I whispered. "No, it's not," he said. "They asked me about it weeks ago. Megan did. She wanted to know how biometric authentication works. She said you still used your thumb for your banking apps. I didn't think anything of it. But now," he paused, "they know you pass out easily if you drink. And they know you wouldn't suspect anything if it came from them." My stomach churned. I looked down at the glass in my mind's eye, still untouched. The cranberry juice catching the light like rubies. Like bait. I wanted to cry, not because I was afraid, but because it made sense. All of it. Every call I'd ignored. Every quiet week after I said no. This dinner. I sank onto the closed toilet lid, resting my elbows on my knees, forehead in my hands. "How do you know for sure?" I asked. "I don't," Mark said, "but I've been around Megan long enough to know when she's desperate. And when your mom gets quiet like this, she's not forgiving. She's planning." A bitter laugh escaped my throat. My own family. They're not acting like your family anymore, he said. They're acting like people who believe they deserve what you've earned. The words hit harder than I expected. Because it was true. For years, my value had been measured in dollars. Good grades meant I could help Megan with school. A job meant I could cover her gaps. A promotion meant they could stop pretending and just ask. I was useful, but never enough. I stood up, steadied myself on the counter, and looked into the mirror again. My eyes were wide, alert, a little sunken, but sharp. Something inside me clicked, not panic strategy. Mark, I said slowly, thank you, I mean it. But I can't just walk out of here. What do you mean? If I leave now, they'll know something's off. They'll cover their tracks. I won't have anything. No proof. A long silence followed. Then, what are you planning? I stared at my phone, then at my bag, then back at my reflection. I'm going back downstairs. Emily, no. I won't drink. I'll act like nothing happened. But I need them to try. I need to know. And I need them caught. Mark didn't respond for a few seconds. Then record everything, he said. You still have that audio tool on your phone, right from your UX testing kit. Yes. Turn it on. Now. Don't wait. I nodded, already opening the app. No flashy red circle. No countdown. Just one swipe and it was recording, running silently in the background. Done, I whispered. Emily, please be careful. I took one last breath, then ended the call. I cracked the bathroom door and listened. The clinking of forks and the low hum of conversation floated up the stairs like nothing had changed. I walked slowly back down. Megan looked up first. You okay? She asked, almost too casual. Yeah, I said with a soft laugh. Just a little woozy, that time of the month, maybe? My mom stood up like she'd been waiting for that excuse. Do you want to lie down? You can rest on the couch if you need. Her tone was syrupy, kind, but behind it, I could hear the hum of calculation. I nodded. That'd be great, just a few minutes. My dad was already fluffing the pillow. Megan had brought over the blanket from the armchair. Everything was moving too fast, too coordinated. I lay down, adjusting myself just right, closed my eyes, slowed my breathing, and I waited. At first, there was only silence. Then, the faintest shuffle. My mom whispered. Is she asleep? Megan replied. She didn't drink much, but she seemed dizzy. Then came my dad's voice. Quiet, serious. Let's not waste time. I heard my phone being picked up. Then, the soft brush of fingers curling around my right hand. The pad of my thumb lifted gently. My pulse pounded in my ears. I had to force myself not to flinch. Then click, the faint vibration of the phone unlocking. She's still got the biometric on, Megan said. We're in. My mom's voice followed. Look for the banking app. She always keeps it on the second screen. Tap, tap, flick. There. My dad murmured. Routing number should be saved. How much are we doing? My mom asked. Not all of it, my dad replied. Just enough to settle things. Settle what? They were speaking in code, but the betrayal wasn't hidden, it was plain. It sat on my skin like oil. She won't even know, Megan added. If it goes through clean, she'll just think she did it herself. That was when I felt it, like a crack running down the spine of everything I'd believed in. They weren't trying to hurt me. They were trying to erase me. Quietly, cleanly, like I was an ATM with a birth certificate. Wait, Megan said, voice sharp. It's asking for two-factor. She changed it, my mom whispered. Damn it. My dad exhaled. Try a different app. Maybe she's logged in somewhere else. Tap, tap, tap. Same thing, Megan said. It's all locked. A beat of silence followed. Then my mom said, Just put the phone back. And they did. No second guessing, no remorse, just the end of a failed transaction. I stayed still, heart pounding, recording running. Then I slowly blinked, like someone waking from a shallow nap. "Sorry," I said groggily. "I think I blacked out for a sec." They all looked at me at once, not with concern, but with calculation. "You sure you're okay?" my dad asked. "Yeah," I said. "Maybe I just need some fresh air." I picked up my phone casually, like it hadn't just been used against me, like my thumb hadn't just been pressed into betrayal. And that's when I noticed it out of the corner of my eye, on the fridge. A photo I hadn't seen in years. Me and Megan, standing in front of a lake, both of us smiling. I remembered that day. My shoes were soaked from chasing her down the pier. She'd hugged me tight, said, "You're the best sister ever." I looked at it now and it felt poisoned. Still, I walked up to it, held my phone, and snapped a photo. They didn't even notice. But I did. I'd just taken a picture of the moment before everything changed. And none of us were going back. I drove home that night like I was going to the grocery store, calm, slow. Not because I wasn't shaken, but because the shock had calcified into something colder, something surgical. I didn't blast the music. I didn't cry. I just replayed their voices in my head, line by line, like checking a system for vulnerabilities. Use her thumb. She always blacks out after one drink. If it goes through clean, she'll think she did it herself. They knew me better than anyone, and they used that knowledge to try and erase me. I got home, walked straight into my apartment, and backed up the recording once to a secure cloud folder. Once to a flash drive I kept hidden in my router box. Then I sat down on the floor. Not on the couch, not at my desk. The floor. Because I didn't trust myself to move without falling apart. There's something eerie about hearing your own family's betrayal on tape. It doesn't feel like a movie. It feels like an infection that starts behind your ribs and works its way out in pulses. Sharp, silent. I closed my eyes and breathed. Steady in, steady out. And in that silence, I remembered something. A phrase from my childhood, my mom's favorite, when I cried over something she didn't want to deal with. "You don't throw away your family just because they disappoint you." I used to believe her. But this wasn't disappointment. This was war. And I had evidence. Still, part of me hesitated. Not about justice, but about perception. What would the cops say? Would they laugh? Would they think I was dramatic? Would they say, "It's your family. Just talk it out"? I knew how society framed these things. Especially if you're a woman. Especially if you look like you have it together. You're expected to absorb the damage, to understand the trauma, not name it. But not this time. I opened my phone, created a folder called Freedom. It was stupidly poetic, but it felt right. Then, I did something I hadn't done in years. I opened my voice notes, hit record, and whispered, "Dear Emily, this isn't your fault. You are not too much. You are not selfish. You chose you, and they chose to become strangers. Let them." I saved it, no title, no need. The next morning, I drove to the Beaverton Police Department. It was a gray, overcast Sunday. Everything felt dull except the fire in my stomach. I waited behind a guy arguing over a parking ticket. Then I stepped forward and said, calmly, "I'd like to report a crime." The woman behind the glass raised an eyebrow. "What kind of crime?" "They drugged me, tried to steal from me. I have the recording." That got her attention. Within 15 minutes, I was in a small interview room with an officer named Daniels, mid-40s. Calm eyes. Didn't interrupt once. He didn't ask why I wasn't crying. He didn't say, "Are you sure?" He just listened. I played the recording, start to finish. He took notes, asked for timestamps. And when I told him I'd changed my bank settings 2 weeks earlier and had logs showing failed login attempts, He leaned back and said, "This is serious." I nodded. It was. They took my statement, made copies of everything, and told me I'd hear back within a few days. That night, I slept like a corpse. No dreams, just silence. But silence doesn't last long when you've broken a family contract. 2 days later, my phone exploded. 3 messages and a voicemail before I even finished brushing my teeth. The first was from my mom. "Did you actually report your own family? What is wrong with you?" I didn't respond. Then Megan's voicemail. "It wasn't what you think. You made it worse. You always make it worse." Next, a call from my dad. I let it go to voicemail too. His voice was low, firm. "You think the cops are going to fix this? You're going to destroy everything. You don't do this to your own people." Own people. That line stuck with me more than anything, as if blood was a shield, as if betrayal was just a technical hiccup between relatives. So I texted once, just once. "You drugged me. You tried to rob me. That's not family. That's a felony." Then I blocked them. All of them. Contacts, group chats, even emergency bypasses. I changed my number, froze my credit, scheduled therapy, and for the first time in my life, I made a doctor's appointment and didn't use my mom's old insurance card. That small act felt like cutting off a leash. A week later, Officer Daniels called. They'd reviewed everything, synced the recording with the failed login attempts, compared it with timestamps in the audio. They had enough. Attempted fraud, misuse of biometric data, unlawful administration of a substance, conspiracy. All 3 of them, together. And here's the part that still stuns me. They didn't fight it. No angry lawyers. No pressuring the system. They took the plea deal, probation, fines, community service, no contact order. And just like that, it was official. They were not allowed to speak to me again. No cards, no birthdays, no, "Let's talk this through." Nothing. And yet, one morning, about a month after the hearing, I walked into the Safeway across town. I needed pasta, salad mix, some oat milk. And I saw her. Megan, in a red vest, stacking paper towels, head down, no makeup, eyes hollow. She didn't look up. Or maybe she did and just didn't react. I stood there for a second, watching. She was no longer a finance hopeful, no longer the family's chosen one. She was just another person on aisle 7, earning minimum wage. I said nothing, just walked to the self-checkout, scanned my pasta, paid with my own card. My own money, my own name. And as I stepped out into the parking lot, the wind caught my jacket just enough for me to look up at the sky. Gray, cold, but mine. Then my phone buzzed. It was an email. From an unknown address. One line. "You're welcome." At first, I thought the email was spam. Just one line, "You're welcome." No signature, no subject, no context. But I knew. I scrolled back up to read it again. The words felt deliberate, not sarcastic, not playful, just clean. Like whoever wrote them believed they had nothing else to explain. I sat back on my couch, phone resting on my knee, heart drumming a slow, heavy rhythm. I hadn't spoken to Mark since that night, since the call in the bathroom. He never reached out again, never asked how it ended. But something about that message, it sounded like him. Not his voice, but his energy. Calculated, understated, like a man who moved 3 steps ahead and never looked back to see who tripped. I stared at the screen, then replied, no greeting, just "Was that you?" No answer, not that day, not the next. But by day 3, the message was eating at me. I wasn't scared. I was curious, and maybe a little angry. Because if he knew more, if he played a bigger role, I needed to know how far this went. So I dug. I still had Megan's old email in my archives, a shared doc she sent me years ago when she wanted help with a resume. I searched it, found a thread from 6 months ago, one where she forwarded Mark a list of articles titled things like How Biometric Data Can Be Exploited by Family Members and When Tech Makes Theft Too Easy. The dates, 3 weeks before the family dinner. My fingers curled around my phone. He'd known, long before the dinner, long before the text. And he'd kept quiet, until that night. I thought about it for a while. Why warn me at all? And then it hit me. He wasn't warning me for me. He was warning me to protect himself. Because if he was involved at all, he needed to get out clean. And helping me. That was his insurance. I sat with that theory like a stone in my lap. Cold. Solid. Maybe it wasn't true. Or maybe it was exactly the kind of logic that had kept him close to Megan for so long. Either way, I needed to focus on what mattered now. Protecting myself. That's when I started the real plan. Not just blocking my family, not just the police report. I was going to cut the last invisible string access. Financial, legal, digital. Because here's the thing. No one tells you about abuse. It doesn't always look like fists or screams. Sometimes it looks like shared logins, emergency contacts, wills you forgot you signed at 23 because your mom said it's just in case. So I made a checklist, and I tackled it like a war plan. Froze my credit with all 3 bureaus, changed my 2FA to a hardware token, not SMS, removed my parents and sister as emergency contacts on my health portal, HR profile, and even my old bank account, called my lawyer friend and rewrote my will, made sure every file that held my biometric or financial data was rekeyed or revoked. And just for good measure, I created a brand new email address, a clean slate, one they'd never find. I named it after something quiet, but powerful. Freedom, archives not for drama, not for spite, but for the same reason survivors change their locks even if the keys were probably returned. Because probably isn't safety, and safety is non-negotiable. It took a full week to finish. By the end of it, I felt like I had shed an old skin. Then just as I was ready to move forward, I got a message on LinkedIn from a former coworker, not someone I was close to, just someone who kept tabs. Hey, not sure if you heard. Thought you'd want to know Mark moved to Denver, quietly. New job, different name on the profile, but same face. I clicked the link. There he was. Different last name, new title, clean-cut photo, gone, but not hidden well enough. I don't know why it hit me so hard. Maybe because it confirmed it. He had played a part. And now, he was disappearing. No consequences, no scars. Meanwhile, I was left picking glass out of my gut. I closed the tab, deleted the message, blocked the sender. Because I didn't need updates anymore. Not about him, not about any of them. Instead, I opened the photo I'd taken of the fridge that night, the one with the old camping picture. Me and Megan, both smiling, arms looped, a still frame of a lie. I stared at it, zoomed in. Then I did something I didn't expect to feel so good. I printed it on thick, matte paper and flipped it upside down. I slid it into a cheap black frame and placed it on my nightstand face down. Not to mourn, to remember what not to return to. And finally, I started to sleep through the night again. But that peace didn't last long. Because a week later, I got a call from Officer Daniels. "Emily," he said, "you might want to come in." I froze. "Why? What happened?" "We think someone tried to access your sealed case file." I felt my throat tighten. "From inside the department?" I asked. "No. From outside. Private network. Masked IP. But they didn't just look. They tried to download it." I swallowed hard. "And?" "We blocked it. Tracked the request. We're still digging, but we thought you should know. I hung up and sat completely still. Because in that moment, I realized someone still wasn't done with me. The word breach hits different when it's your life someone's trying to reopen. After Officer Daniels called, I sat in silence for over an hour, not scrolling, not pacing, just sitting. My hands folded, legs still. The kind of stillness that only shows up when your body doesn't trust itself to move. Someone had tried to access the sealed police report. Someone who shouldn't have known how, or even where to find it. The case had been locked down under my legal name and a sealed ID number. The only people with access were Daniels, the DA, and me, which meant whoever tried wasn't just guessing. They knew something. I pulled up my laptop and began checking every account I had. Bank logins secure, socials two-factor on, cloud folders all clean. But that didn't comfort me. Because this wasn't about stealing money anymore. It was about control. And the more I looked at it, the more I realized this wasn't just my parents, or Megan being reckless. It was something colder. Strategic. I texted Daniels. Let me know if you trace the IP. I can help from my end. I work in network architecture. He replied 3 minutes later. Will do. And Emily, watch your logins. Whoever this is, they're not done. That night, I didn't sleep. Instead, I got to work. First, I restructured my entire digital footprint, replaced email aliases, updated DNS servers, cleaned out old subscriptions that might leak data. Then, I wrote a script that would ping any attempt to access files tied to my voice, fingerprint, or address. And while the system ran, I started thinking, not just about who, but why now. The case was over. They'd already been sentenced. Probation. Fines. No contact orders. So why risk it all again? Unless someone thought I had more. Something they missed. I walked to my drawer, opened it, and pulled out the flash drive, the one labeled in silver Sharpie Freedom Backup. Plugged it in. There was the full audio file, the police folder, photos from that night, screenshots of Megan's messages, and... Wait! There it was. A file I didn't remember saving. Bank's logs marked zip. I opened it. Inside were filtered exports date-stamped transactions, not just from my account, but from theirs. My dad's business account, my mom's joint savings with Megan, and Megan's own account from a now-closed fintech app. How did I have these? Then I remembered. The night I backed up everything. I also synced a shared folder from my old family Dropbox just in case. A folder I was still linked to from years ago. One Megan used for taxes. I had clicked download all without thinking. And now, sitting right in front of me, plain as day, was proof. They'd been shifting money between accounts months before the dinner. Thousands of dollars. Sudden deposits. Disappearances. And most of it centered around Megan's name. Which meant they were covering something long before they ever invited me to dinner. The drugging. The phone access. That was Plan C. They had already tried other ways. I clicked through the transfers. Heart pounding. One stood out. A 17 out of 300 deposit into a shadow LLC with no name, from an account I didn't recognize, but linked back to my dad. That was 2 weeks before they contacted me about helping Megan with her mistake. I sat back, floored. They had the money. They just wanted mine to cover theirs. And that changed everything. Because now, it wasn't just a betrayal. It was fraudulent intent. They had lied to me and to the court. And if I brought this forward, their plea deal could be voided. I took a breath. This was dangerous ground. I could be seen as reopening a case that was already closed. Prosecutors might resist. The system likes finality. But if they had lied under oath, and I had proof, that was enough to trigger emotion. So I called Daniels again. Emily, he answered quickly. I found something, I said. Within the hour, I was back at the precinct. Same room, same chair. But this time, I didn't feel like a victim. I felt like a witness. Daniels reviewed the zip file while I walked him through every connection, each date, transfer, and flagged transaction. His face didn't move. He just nodded slowly, then said, You may have just reopened this thing. Are you going to charge them again? I asked. That's up to the DA. But if they lied to a judge and withheld assets, yeah, that's serious. As I left the station, I didn't feel triumphant. I felt awake. Because for years, I'd been told to keep the peace, to keep the family together, to keep things quiet. But the truth is, silence protects predators. And I was done being quiet. That night, I poured myself a glass of water, sat at the window, and opened the voice memo I'd recorded weeks earlier, the one I whispered to myself after they tried to steal everything. I listened to my own voice say, You chose you. Don't ever forget that. I pressed stop, and for the first time, I believed it. But just as I reached to delete the recording, my phone buzzed again. A new message, different number, no name. It read, You still don't get it, do you? You were never the target. You were the key. I froze, because that message didn't sound like Mark, or my parents, or Megan. It sounded like someone else entirely. I read the message again, out loud this time. You still don't get it, do you? You were never the target. You were the key. My mouth went dry. I had assumed everything revolved around me as the mark, that they wanted my money, that they needed my fingerprint to steal what they couldn't earn. But that message flipped the board. I wasn't just the target. I was the tool, and someone else had been playing a longer game. I sat on the edge of my bed, heart pounding in my throat. If I wasn't the real target, then who was? What was the goal? I opened my laptop, this time not looking for threats, but for connections. Something I'd missed. I dug deeper into the bank logs I had downloaded, not just the filtered zip folder, but the raw data. That's when I noticed something strange. Among the metadata from Megan's old fintech account, where she'd allegedly lost money gambling, there were 5 transactions labeled consulting fees. All 5 were small, under $400 each. Unusual, considering she had no clients, no freelancing history. But the 5th one had a note. Just one word, Slate. I froze. Slate was the name of a private data brokerage firm, a gray market data analytics company known in cybersecurity circles. Not illegal, but barely legal. They scrape, sell, and cross-verify data from breached sources. And guess who their biggest clients were? Political operatives, law firms, and banks. Including the bank that had just launched a new biometric lending initiative, the same one my dad used to contract for before retirement. Suddenly, everything clicked. My biometric data wasn't valuable because of who I was. It was valuable because of what I had access to. Because I worked in infrastructure security. Because I had admin-level testing credentials from beta systems. They weren't just trying to steal from me. They were trying to use me. Through my fingerprint, my authentication, and my insider status to simulate authorized access to one of the platforms I'd been testing 6 months ago. My head spun. This was no longer just about family betrayal. This was corporate exploitation. And whether they knew the full scope or not, my parents had been part of it. Maybe pawns, maybe willing, but complicit. I picked up my phone and called Daniels again. Detective, I need you to pull every financial connection between my family and any third-party firms, particularly anything tagged with the name Slate. Slate, he repeated. You mean the data group? Yes. I think this goes deeper, and I think there's evidence we missed. Daniels paused. I could hear his keyboard clicking. Emily, you need to come in. Right now. By the time I arrived, the the digital forensics unit had already pulled 2 matches. One, Megan had been paid by an anonymous account tied to an offshore server registered under a shell company. 2, that company had wired money to my father's LLC a month before the family dinner. Daniels looked up from the monitor, jaw tight. "This was coordinated," he said. "This wasn't just some family con. This was structured fraud." "And they used me as the inside link," I added. He nodded. "I can escalate this to the feds, but I need you to be ready for backlash. If this gets out, there'll be pressure." I leaned forward. "They already tried to steal my identity. They drugged me. I'm not scared of backlash anymore." The case reopened within 48 hours. But this time, it wasn't county court. It was federal. Wire fraud, biometric misuse, conspiracy to exploit financial systems. They brought all 3 of them in for questioning. And this time, they didn't walk away with probation. Because the new evidence invalidated the original plea deal. I wasn't there when they arrested them. I didn't need to be. But I got the update a week later. My mom broke first, cried, blamed external pressures, said they were told I'd never know, that everyone does this now. My dad silent, didn't deny it, didn't confirm either. Megan. She said nothing, just stared at the wall like it held all her answers. They were indicted on multiple counts, no more slaps on the wrist, no more sealed cases. And when the court read the charges, I wasn't there for revenge. I was there for clarity. They had tried to turn my life into a back door, into a shortcut, into a harmless favor dressed in cranberry juice and holiday chicken. But I shut it down. With proof, with tech, with truth. And, yes, with anger. Because no matter how modern we get, how secure we think we are, it's still the people closest to us who hold the key. Now, here's the part I didn't expect. 2 weeks after the indictments, I got a letter. Not an email, not a voicemail, an actual letter, handwritten, no return address. It was from Mark. "You were right. I should have come clean. I warned you because I knew what they were planning. But I also knew if I said too much, I'd be next. Slate made promises. Your sister thought it was just money. Your parents thought it was insurance. I thought it was survivable. We were all wrong. No apology, no excuses, just a confession of cowardice." He ended the note with one line. "They didn't just underestimate you. They underestimated what happens when the quiet one finally speaks." I folded the letter and placed it inside the back of the same frame, the one with the upside-down family photo. Let it sit there, hidden, but real. Then I walked over to my kitchen, opened the fridge. Everything inside, bought by me, labeled by me, owned by me. And just as I took out the oat milk, my phone buzzed again. Unknown number. One message? "You think it's over. It's not. It's strange how peace feels like both a relief and a burden. After everything, the betrayals, the court cases, the lies, I found myself standing in front of the framed photo on my nightstand. The one with Megan and me. Arms linked on that long-ago camping trip. I stared at it, face down, the image hidden. It wasn't hate that made me flip it. It was acceptance. A silent vow some things belong in the past, not in the frame. The letter from Mark sat tucked behind the frame, a reminder of how tangled the threads had been. He was part of the story, but not the whole story. I walked to the kitchen and opened my fridge, the quiet hum filling the space. Every item inside everything was mine, bought by me, for me. The oat milk, the sparkling water, the frozen vegetables, simple things, but they tasted like freedom. Yet freedom felt strange, heavy, like walking through a house with all the doors closed. I had cut ties with my family completely. No calls, no messages. I'd blocked numbers, changed emails, rewritten wills. I was a ghost to them now. But I carried their shadows. There's a peculiar loneliness in being the one who speaks up, who chooses truth over blood. And it wasn't just about me anymore. It was about every person who's been told to stay silent for the sake of family, every woman who's been guilted into carrying burdens that aren't hers, every person whose loyalty has been weaponized against them. The courtroom victory was not just legal, it was personal justice, but it also shed light on a system that lets trust be exploited by the ones closest to you. I thought about the community I lived in, the neighbors who smiled but looked away, the friends who asked, "How's the family?" without hearing the answer. Our society teaches us that family is forever, unconditional, but what if that forever includes harm? What if unconditional means blind acceptance? That's the conflict I lived. And I chose autonomy. I remembered the voice memo I recorded in the early days, the one I whispered to myself when I felt like breaking. You chose you. Don't ever forget that. I replayed it softly, a gentle reminder that strength sometimes means breaking ties. The morning light spilled in through the window as I sat at my desk, typing an email to a nonprofit focused on victims of family fraud and abuse. Because stories like mine need to be told. Because no one should have to be a silent victim. Before sending, I paused, and then I added a line. If this helped you, please share, because the strongest justice is the one that breaks the silence. I hit send. My phone buzzed. An unknown number. One message? This is far from over. I smiled faintly. Because if there's one thing I've learned, it's that justice isn't a destination. It's a journey. And mine is just beginning. Thanks for sticking with me through this story. If you or someone you know has faced betrayal or abuse in their family, remember you are not alone. Your voice matters. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more stories about truth, strength, and survival. And tell me, what would you do if you were in my shoes? Until next time, stay safe and stay strong.